Have you ever heard the name Stanislav Petrov? Probably not. But honestly, he might be the reason you and I are even here today. This is the incredible story of a single moment that brought our world right to the edge of nuclear war, and it shines a light on a terrifying risk that's never really gone away. So let's dive in. Our story begins deep underground, inside a top-secret Soviet command bunker, and the tension is almost unbearable. We're talking September 26th, 1983. It's just after midnight. A lieutenant colonel named Stanislav Petrov is the guy in charge at Sokopov 15. This is basically the nerve center for the Soviet Union's entire network of nuclear early warning satellites. And then it happens. A piercing siren just splits the silence. On a giant screen, a single horrifying word flashes in red: launch. The system is reporting that one single intercontinental ballistic missile is in the air. It's just been launched from the United States, and it's heading straight for the Soviet Union. Now, you have to understand, Petrov's training was crystal clear. His only job in this moment was to pick up the phone, verify the warning, and pass it up the chain of command. And if he did that, Soviet military doctrine was absolute. You launch an immediate, all-out nuclear counterattack. There was no debate. It was compulsory. But Petrov, he hesitated. He later said he just had this funny feeling in my gut. It just didn't make any sense. I mean, think about it. If the US was really going to start World War III, they wouldn't send just one missile, right? No, they'd send hundreds, a massive wave meant to completely overwhelm their enemy. This felt wrong. It felt like a computer glitch. And just when you think the pressure couldn't get any worse, it does. The system updates. 4 more missiles are now detected, all screaming towards the USSR. The warning on his screen now has the highest possible confidence level. The pressure on this one man is absolute. The world is holding its breath, and it doesn't even know it. So to really get the weight that was on Petrov's shoulders, we have to pull back for a second and understand the absolutely terrifying logic that the entire Cold War was built on. The whole thing was governed by a simple, chilling concept: mutually assured destruction. You've probably heard of it. MAD. The idea was kind of simple and kind of insane. If both sides could absolutely, 100% guarantee the other's total destruction, then nobody would be crazy enough to start a nuclear war in the first place. And that guarantee came from something called the nuclear triad. It was a 3-pronged system. You had your land-based missiles in super tough underground silos, you had nuclear-armed submarines hiding deep in the ocean, and you had strategic bombers in the air ready to go at a moment's notice. The point was, no matter what happened, you could always launch a devastating counterattack. It made the threat real. And you have to remember, 1983 was tense. I mean, really tense. The US was running psychological operations, flying bombers right up to Soviet airspace to test their reactions. And just a few weeks before this incident, the Soviets had shot down a civilian airliner, Korean Airlines Flight 007. The entire world was basically sitting on a powder keg. So, back in that bunker, 5 missiles supposedly inbound. Everything is screaming at Petrov to report an attack. And what does he do? He picks up the phone and he reports it to his superiors as a system malfunction. He literally bet the entire world on a gut feeling. And you know what? He was right. An investigation later figured it all out. It wasn't an American attack. It was the sun. Yeah, you heard me, the sun. A freak atmospheric event where sunlight reflected off some high-altitude clouds at the perfect angle to trick the Soviet satellites. The near end of the world was caused by a trick of the light. And here's the really scary part. This wasn't some 1 in a billion fluke. This kind of thing has happened before. In 1979, a war game training tape was accidentally fed into the live US warning system. In 1980, a faulty 46-cent computer chip made NORAD think 2,200 Soviet missiles were on their way. These ghosts in the machine are a terrifyingly common flaw in the system. Okay, so that was 1983, but let's bring this into today. What would a similar crisis look like right now, but from the US president's point of view? You've probably seen pictures of this thing. This is the nuclear football. It's an emergency satchel that follows the president absolutely everywhere, 24/7. Inside are the war plans, the communication tools, everything needed to order a nuclear strike. Now, just look at this timeline. It is jaw-droppingly fast. In less than a single second, US satellites can detect the heat from a missile launch. Within 3 minutes, the president, the secretary of defense, they're all on a call being briefed. But here's the key number. The president has about 6 minutes. 6 minutes to absorb the data, consult advisors, and make a decision that could end civilization as we know it. And get this, the final confirmation from ground-based radar, that doesn't even come in until minute 9, after the decision is supposed to have been made. And why is it so ridiculously fast? Because the official policy is launch on warning. The whole strategy is to get your missiles in the air before the other guy's missiles can land and destroy yours. It's a brutal, use it or lose it posture that forces a world-ending decision into a terrifyingly short window.
So this all happened almost 40 years ago. Why are we still talking about it? Why does this story matter so much right now?
Because the risk of a catastrophic miscalculation, well, it never went away. In some ways, it's actually gotten worse. While the US has poured money into advanced satellite systems, experts warn that Russia's early warning tech is still deeply flawed. In fact, it's vulnerable to the exact same kind of error that nearly caused a disaster back in '83. And even though the Cold War is over, just look at these numbers. The stakes are as high as ever. Russia and the United States together still control over 10,000 nuclear warheads. And yes, many of them are still kept on that same hair-trigger alert. You know, the UN Secretary General really put it perfectly. He said, "We are one misunderstanding, one miscalculation away from nuclear annihilation." The systems that we've built to keep us safe rely on a level of perfection that technology, and humans for that matter, simply can't guarantee. And that leaves us with a final, really unsettling question, doesn't it? In 1983, the world was saved because one man had the courage to doubt the machine. But today, in an age of faster systems, more automation, and flawed technology, can we really count on having another Stanislav Petrov in the right place at the right time? Will we get a second chance?